Genetic Memory Farms said, I have to admit I have never gone on Twitter and probably never will. Screw Elon.
I'm not exactly a fan of the fact that I'm still on Twitter, to be honest, but if you know how to sift through the cruff, oh Jesus, okay. Mimi, you might die.
Genetic Memory Farms said, is it really worth it? I mean, every person on there just feeds the data boost.
But I do use it still to, like, I'll keep up with candidates, follow some news stories that might, you know, have some threads of new information on there. Outside of that, it's mostly just like Nazis and shit posters.
Genetic Memory Farms asks, isn't Blue Sky just Twitter but without Mecha Hitler? Is it any better?
I guess it depends on what you want to get out of it. It's obviously, there's a lot less Nazis on that site. A lot less Nazis. I don't know. I'm not really on Blue Sky that much. I have an account there, but like, a lot of media people still do all of their posting primarily on Twitter. So like, for any kind of media person who I trust can get like information out quickly, you know, Ken Klippenstein or something like that, like they're still on Twitter. I mean, I think he is on Blue Sky too, but I don't know if he's as prolific a poster on Blue Sky as he is on Twitter. And same with some other outlets, Zateo, Mehdi Hassan and stuff like that. Like, I'll follow those guys because I don't think that they are as engaged on Blue Sky as they are on Twitter.
Genetic Memory Farms said, so the users are the only thing of value on Twitter? Seems like we should just abandon Twitter and it would be worthless. Then they would move to Blue Sky or something else. Genetic Memory Farms said something else that is hopefully socially responsible.
I mean, that was initially the promise of Blue Sky, and they definitely got a big boost.
Street Corner Becky said, easy to say.
Yeah, they got a big boost for sure. But the problem with that is, one, you do need a massive consensus, and it's hard to get that. Two, I don't know how to put this. A part of the draw for a lot of social media is the adversarial kind of confrontations you could have. And there are ways that you could do that in a respectful manner and in a constructive manner. You don't get that in Twitter at all. But I think that Blue Sky it's fashioned itself, it's modeled itself as being for people that don't want that at all. So, in a sense, it's a hell of a lot more echo chambery than, I guess, Twitter. Because even though Elon boosts Nazis and shit like that, and all the blue checkmark freaks, there is still as many people on Twitter to call those dudes out. And I don't know if it's constructive or what, but I think it is informative in a certain sense. Like, in the recent week, I'll say. I mean, it's happened here and there over the past few months, but definitely after Trump hilariously backed away from the Epstein stuff, and he's like, "Are you still talking about excuse me? Are you still talking about Epstein? We talked about Epstein a lot. He's talking about Epstein a lot. There's a lot of tragedy with Texas, but a lot of wins, but a lot of tragedy. You're still talking about Epstein?" You know, after he did that shit, like, the right-wing psychos lost their minds. And, like, they're in a moment right now. There's a real identity crisis and a crisis of consciousness that's happening on the far right that I don't think you would understand fully if you only paid attention to Blue Sky. And some of the interactions that I have been seeing after that shit happened between, like, liberals and conservatives, or far right people and far left people. Like it's weird. It's a weird moment right now. It is a very weird moment because there is this understanding on the right that, hey, maybe Trump is the guy that the QAnon people accused Hillary Clinton of being. Maybe he is the Pizzagate guy. Maybe everything we were told about this guy was a lie because he seems to be doing the opposite of most of what he said he wasn't going to do. He bombed Iran. He's burying Epstein. He's losing all of our money. We're losing all our jobs and shit with all these crazy tariffs and whatnot. It seems like things have gone from bad to dramatically worse in a hurry. And the one thing that they were hanging their hat on was, oh, well, this guy, he's just battling the swamp. He's cleaning it all up. But after the Epstein thing, now they're all forced to reckon with, oh, that thing that you built your entire identity around was a lie. And, they're all having this weird existential crisis, this crisis of consciousness, this identity crisis. It's fascinating to see. And I think that's something that you can only see on Twitter.
Genetic Memory Farms said stripping Medicare and Medicaid. Don't forget that. I think that's actually where it first started, because you saw rumblings here and there. You had conservatives whose farms were hit by the U.S. aid cut, and they didn't like that, and they were like, "Well, I didn't vote for my farm to go out of business." And so, you saw it there. You saw it with some of the mass deportation stuff. And by the way, the numbers on mass deportation and shit is abysmal for Trump right now. There was a Gallup poll that came out that showed record support for immigration and shit in the country. So, even that's going poorly for him. But you saw it a little bit as it was being rolled out, where people were in the more selfish and cynical side, people were like, well, these are my farm workers. I'm losing my farm workers. I'm losing my construction workers. How does that help me out? I didn't vote for this. But then also on the more human side, you would have people that were like, well, that guy wasn't a criminal. He was my neighbor. I thought we were just getting rid of the criminals. But no, they're just rounding up good guys, good folk. I didn't vote to round up good folk. I just wanted to round up the criminals. So it's been kind of bubbling here and there pretty much since the first or second week of his tenure, and it's slowly risen to, the temperature has risen a little bit more and more over time. But the Medicaid thing was, and that whole big beautiful bill shit was the first big okay, a switch is flipped and something different is happening. And then the Epstein thing just was a supercharger on all of that. And when you follow the trajectory of how conservative media and right-wing shit posters and memesters that have an outsized influence in the Trump ecosystem, if you follow how they've been talking, if you track how they've been communicating on Twitter and Facebook and shit over the course of the past few months to the past week or so, it's a sea change. Tucker Carlson is out there roasting Ted Cruz, and they're doing these sorts of things. Those guys are doing these sorts of things not because they're good people. They're making a cynical play. They see the writing on the wall with this. They know where it's going to go, and they're just trying to get out in front of it. So it's interesting to see all of that, and I have to follow it. I have to watch where it goes. So that's and I'm not. If anybody else wants to get off Twitter, Genetic Memory Farms asks, so what do you think midterms will look like? No cuts are really heading into after. Do you think they will keep a supermajority until 2028, or are we deadlocking in 2026?
You're not going to like my answer, because I think that all depends on the efficacy of the Democratic Party. And I think the Democratic Party is this country's second worst enemy right now. Make no mistake, the Republicans are still the worst enemy, but you would want more from your opposition party than what they're doing. And if I wanted to be as charitable as possible, I would say that their current strategy is step out of the Republicans' way and let them step on their own dicks to death. But I don't think that's an adequate enough strategy. When you're a party that has a 29% approval rating, that's not good enough. You've got to actually have the courage to fight and put your vision in front of America, contrast your vision to their vision, offer people things. You're going to have to offer people things and mean it and step up. And you're going to have to fight. And the Democratic Party hasn't shown a really strong, unified willingness to do that. And if that keeps, then Republicans could still retain a majority. But there's no telling. Like, at the same time, there's no fucking telling what's going to happen between now and the midterms. Like, it could be anything. Anything could happen. So, I don't know. All I know is, like, we're at a weird inflection point right now where I don't know what's going to happen to the conservative movement. I don't know. Trump has been really good up until this point at getting, like, his most ardent followers to fall in line with whatever he does, even with the Iran bombing thing. Like, at first when it happened, a lot of his supporters were like, what the fuck this? But then, like, 2 days later, those same people were like, it was actually a good thing to bomb Iran. Like, bombing Iran is America first, you know? So he's been pretty good about doing that. It remains to be seen if he can continue to be good at doing that post Jeffrey Epstein thing. And it sounds silly to say, but the thing is, the far right have built their identity on Jeffrey Epstein. Like, all of the QAnon shit, like, Donald Trump is secretly working with the RFK Jr. or whatever to fucking arrest all the pedos and et cetera, et cetera. That was the crux of QAnon. And, you know, Hillary Clinton, we can't vote for Hillary Clinton and Pizzagate and all that shit. Like, I mean, that was not the central crux of their argument against Hillary Clinton, but it was an important one. So, like, all of that being flipped on its head might have an impact on his ability to continue to get his people to do whatever he wants, especially if, like, you get to a point where people recognize that their Medicaid's about to get cut, if the economy doesn't turn over and we end up falling into a recession, if all of the indicators that look bad continue to be bad, and also the dude's a Jeffrey Epstein cover-up artist, he probably isn't going to have the ability to whip his base the way that he had. And I think a part of Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and those ilks, a part of their calculation is Trump's big threat to the Republican Party that keeps them in line, that gets all of them to vote for shit like the big beautiful bill, even though they all come out and they're like, oh, this bill's a disaster, it raises the dead, blah blah blah, I don't want to cut Josh Hawley, I don't want to cut Medicare, blah blah blah, and they end up voting for it anyways. They do that because they don't want to run opposite of Trump, because, you know, he'll start shit talking you in your district, he'll back your primary opponent. You know, the Trump base have to this point been fervent followers. They don't want to deal with that. So even if they don't want to vote for something that Trump wants to do, they'll still do it because they're trying to avoid that. But I think the calculation that Marjorie Taylor Greene and her ilk are making is that he's not going to have that power for long, is that he's going to run afoul of his base and the American people in general so egregiously that his ability to try to primary an opponent is going to wane and be ineffective. And he's ostensibly, it's hard to call him this given the level of the level of power that Republicans and Democrats are willing to give him, you know, basically letting him do whatever the fuck he wants. But he is ostensibly a lame duck president at this point, because, like, he's not gonna run again.
Genetic Memory Farm said, I hate to say it, but I have largely given up. As an organizer, I could find no one younger than me who wanted to learn the skill set, so I have retired. People younger than me have to choose to organize.
They're doing that. Don't get me wrong. The younger people are doing that. I remember 2016, after Bernie lost the primary, his concession, he made a concession video about how he was going to dip out, etc., etc. But the big crux of that video was he was making a pitch for younger people, because, you know, his campaign was largely juiced by young people. He was making a pitch to young people to don't give up, don't despair, get involved in politics, be involved in these organizations.
We need to start engaging at the local and state level in an unprecedented way. Hundreds of thousands of volunteers helped us make political history during this last year. Now we need many of them to start running for school boards, city councils, county commissions, state legislatures, and governorships. State and local governments make enormously important decisions, and we cannot allow right-wing Republicans to increasingly control them.
A few organizations splintered out from the Bernie campaign, like Brand New Congress, Justice Democrats to a degree, although that was more of a media kind of operation, but they had some Bernie people involved. Our Revolution, but more importantly, Bernie's campaign put a big spotlight on the DSA, and the DSA saw record numbers of people signing up and whatnot. And DSA is not a political party, they're an organizing operation. So what they do is outreach in the communities. Like, they do door knocking campaigns, they do fundraisers, they do mutual aid, they do all sorts of stuff that gets people organized in their local communities. So since 2016, there's been a big burst of interest from young people from that movement. And that's where AOC came from. But that's where Zoran Mandani came from too, because he was a Bernie volunteer in 2016. And he maintained his connections in local politics from that run and, ran for city council, etc., etc. So right now, after Zoran's win and all of the media that's gotten, DSA has announced that they've seen 10,000 new, I think it was like around 10,000 new people sign up, younger people sign up for the organization. There's a tremendous level of interest in it. There's a lot of other young people all around the country that have started, running for things. What's her name? Kat Abu, I can't pronounce her name for the life of me. It's like Kat Abu Ghazala or something like that. She announced that she was running to primary a longtime Democratic congresswoman in her district. And as soon as she announced that, congresswoman was like, all right, well, I just retire. She was already old anyways. So and Kat's a young person too. So young people are getting involved. It's happening. It's maybe the frustration is it isn't happening as fast as, maybe you or I would like, because 2016 was a long fucking time ago and things have gotten dramatically worse since. But I don't know. Life moves at its own pace, I guess. I haven't given up, and I still have some hope, but I'm not going to delude myself about what it's going to take. It's going to take a lot. Unfortunately, it might take...
Memory Farms said none of those groups sound familiar. I am a member of DSA and very familiar, but as an organization they are rudderless. They fight for leadership. Abu Azale is the Illinois 9th.
Illinois 9th, okay. I don't think they're rudderless at all. Just speaking from being in Austin, one, they supported Jose Garza, a progressive district attorney who I voted for. Shocked that he won his first race, but then not only did he win his first race, he did such a great job that he blew the doors off of his second run here, and he was targeted. Like, all the conservatives that hate progressive district attorneys went after him, and he won handily. So I was happy about that. But also Greg Cesar, who is currently the chair of the House Progressive Caucus, he was an Austin City Council member who was also supported by the DSA chapter here. And one, he was a fantastic city council member, which in part helped him win that House seat. People remembered exactly what he was doing when that freeze happened in Texas in 2021? Shit, man, how long ago was that? I guess it was 2021. People remember what he was doing. He was out there on the streets. The streets were barely drivable, but he was out there doing mutual aid, helping the different mutual aid outfits, get donations from people, deliver shit to people. He was in it. And DSA was organizing a lot of that too. So they're definitely not rudderless. They aren't at the forefront. They don't get a lot of attention until somebody like Zoran wins on a big stage, but they have a lot of victories that just kind of go unnoticed. If you consider what I was going to say before, is if you consider like what Obama had to overcome to become the first black president, in my opinion, the only thing that allowed that to happen, the only thing that allowed Obama to be president, was George W. fucking the country up to such a colossal degree that people were okay, ready, willing, eager, and generally speaking, okay with voting for a black guy with a Muslim name if they thought that he had the chops to bring the economy back. And one, Obama campaigned on a very progressive message, and two, he was an incredibly charismatic campaigner, so people were willing to believe. Unfortunately, I feel like that's the kind of thing that it's going to take. It's going to take something really, really, really bad happening. I don't want something really, really bad to happen. I would prefer to avoid that if I can, but I feel like that's just what it's going to take. City,
Genetic Memory
maybe.
Farm said, and that is it. We will only ever progress when everything is destroyed and people have no other choice. Pain and suffering will be the teacher.
Well, I probably wouldn't want to put it in such apocalyptic, Darwinistic terms as that, but yeah, I guess that's generally the vibe I have too. I don't want it to be like that, but I think I guess that's just how a lot of people absorb information, absorb experiences. It's kind of like Dick Cheney being anti-LGBT until his daughter came out as being, lesbian, and then suddenly he was a very pro-LGBT Republican. That's all it took. Just a personal experience. Believe it or not, I actually try not to be overly cynical about these sorts of things, because I know that
Genetic Memory Farms said, yeah, no one cares until it comes back to their family.
Oops, I was just here. The human condition is malleable. For good and for bad. It is nothing if not malleable. Hearts and minds can be changed. It's not always an easy experience. It's not always fun. I think that's a part of why I do stick around on Twitter too. Like I was explaining before, like being able to observe everything that's happening in the conservative space with respects to the last couple of months. You kind of get to see that happen in real time for some people. There are tons of disingenuous actors and bots and just straight up fucking Nazis and shit on
Genetic
there.